thanks for listening in our last section. We're still having Jerry, Mr. Jerry, sharing with us his experiences. If I may, Jerry, there are two things that I would like to get clarity on from yourself in your last section. One is to just give a glimpse as to what was happening in 1952. How did they make its inroads into the people's power? And why do you relate those to what is happening currently? Just a short one before you continue. Thank you.
Thank you again, Comrade Manene, and to your viewers. Well, I think that you brought a smile to my face because one is always reinvigorated by the energies of the young people of 52. As you will remember, it was a period where the Youth League emerged as quite an active force within the ANC. And as young people, they were incredibly uncomfortable with the slow pace of the march towards freedom. The youth, as is the youth today, was energetic, was full of anxiety. They wanted things now. So leaders like Lembede, leaders like Tambo, leaders like Madiba, and others kind of campaigned for a program of action that will expedite freedom. And that campaign was called the Defiance Campaign. It was a campaign basically where the ANC decided to undermine the apartheid legislation, apartheid institutions. So all places that prohibited Black people from entering, when I talk Black in the broad context of the previously disadvantaged or oppressed people of our country, all those who was, subjugated under apartheid. That's Black to me. So the Defiance Campaign of 52 then called on people throughout the country to volunteer themselves to undermine these bastions, these institutions of apartheid. And people joined the volunteer ranks in great numbers. And PE, of course, was one of the most active parts in the country where the Defiance Campaign was extremely successful. It goes without saying that Madiba volunteered to be the chief volunteer in that campaign. So that is the kind of campaign that I think that we need, where South Africans in general kind of come together and say, for this vandalism that is happening of state property, the theft of state property, that is a kind of volunteerism, if I can link 52 with the now, where we in our thousands needs to say enough is enough. This is absolutely unacceptable, the level and the depth of destruction of state property that we experience today. So that is my recollection of the Defiance Campaign of 52. It was almost like jump-starting the revolution, jump-starting the struggle, giving it a boost to go forward, inspire millions of people that, the ANC is alive and well, and so is the struggle for a democratic South Africa.
I understand and I hear where you're coming from, as well as the link between the youth formations of then and today's. You may continue. You said you were going to continue with your passionate part in the housing development.
Yes. So for me, the housing, the sad part is then that today we see very few, if any, communities that are actively involved in housing, in building their own houses. But the point that I would like to drive home here, the people's housing process was never just about the house. It was about integrating society. It was about creating a place to play, a place to stay, a place to socialize, a place created by ourselves, by the people, where neighbors together work in building their houses, where neighbors together work in terms of constructing their streets, etc. So that was what it was all about. It was meant to be integration and not what we have today. We have RDP settlements with no content whatsoever. You don't find anything. You find rows and rows of RDP houses. It is incredibly unimaginable, the person or people, in fact, that came out with housing for the poor, and this is a global phenomenon. There's no imagination in it. There's no creativity. It's one house fits its all. I tell you, and the views, you can go to any informal settlement in the country, anywhere where you live, even overseas. You can go to Kenya, you can go to India. You will not find one shack the same. It's not one shack the same, not in terms of size, not in terms of style. So how is it then that somebody decides that one shoe fits all, you know? And they took it even further. They don't only give the same size house or the same house with the same features, even the paint that they paint the house is the same, you know? There is no, now if you build those kind of communities, you build a dormant community. There is nothing in there that generate ingenuity, that generate kind of new thinking. We all look the same, we all live the same, so it's fine that we all are the same. That is a recipe for disaster. That we are creating cement slums. If you go to Brazil, you find the favelas. People still stay in slums, but it is just brick and mortar. And that is what we are doing with our informal settlements. We changed them and we gave our people houses, yes, of course, but beyond that, it's a trickle down effect. And let me connect this to the whole notion of top-down development that we have developed. Possibly, I would say, especially in the latter part of the 90s, and really took speed in 2000 upwards. So today, you have fundamentally a top-down development taking place in our cities, in our communities, and so on. Officials, basically, politicians, basically decide what will happen where. And communities' input in there is insignificant. It is so meager. Our people has been reduced to almost like getting a job. That is your participation. We need 10 people out of 20 people. You decide who the 10 people is going to be. And that is a tragedy. Now, if we continue to do that, what do you expect? People are not part of the process. People don't feel that the state belongs to them. People don't feel that local government that's supposed to be the center of community participation, they don't feel part of it. So if they don't feel part of it, don't come tomorrow and ask us why is the state of affairs like that. Where were you when we wanted to participate? So participation, it's not only about token consultation, once of asking people their opinion and whether they say yes or no, that is basically it. The participation, the empowerment that we need in our communities in South Africa today is where ultimately people are constructively engaged from the conceptualization process. People needs to participate in where we live. People needs to participate in the size of the roads. People needs to participate in terms of the social amenities that goes with it. People needs to be part of it. Where is it going to be? You will remember in most of the apartheid towns, community centers, for example, were built on the periphery of the town. And that's why today many of our community centers are really white elephants because it's not in the heart of the community, it's not in the center of the community. The people have not decided where best it must be located so that they can ultimately uh, gather there and have easy access to it and feel safe to it. So many of our facilities are so far from the communities that in fact our kids don't go to the library. So the question in terms of rethinking social development, and I promise you, no one, it's almost like apartheid. Nobody supported apartheid today, pre-94. Whoever you talk to never liked, in fact, what happened. If you talk today to the planners, if you talk to the developers, if you talk to areas, they all talk integration. But go there and what will you find? You only find rows and rows and rows of houses. That's it. And you are lucky if in the next 10 years the Department of Education will come around and build a school. You are lucky if in the next 10 years a community center or a library will be built. So the question for me in terms of people's participation and how we relate that to people's power, it is the tension is in terms of where power is vested in and how power has been used in terms of in fact creating favors for friends and not to empower people. So we have today the power relations is that if you are a senior official and you have control over a housing project, you are a king. People must come to you and ask, where am I getting a house? It's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to ask the people, where do you want to stay? Where do you want to live? So for me, the question has shifted away from power to the people to power in the hands of individuals. I can give you an example of our ward committee system. Now, I was part of the inception of ward committees, and we discussed it at the time, and we always so excited. We had this vision of people participating in development, of people keeping councillors accountable. We were so excited about ward committees that they are going to be catalysts in their communities to ensure that people will be part of the process of development. Unfortunately, possibly 15 years later, ward committees has just become another structure in a community. I promise you, very few communities possibly even know who their ward committee members are. And I'm not saying it is by mistake of the ward committee members, but it is by the design of the system. The system has been designed that ward committees are in fact ineffective. You know, a ward committee member will still be told, no, go to your ward councillor. A ward committee member can't just call an official and ask him or her, can you sort out my street, etc. So the issue in terms of how we have uh, uh, structured these what I call organs of people's power or community participation, what was meant to be to strengthen their participation has weakened it completely. If you ask yourself, do you know who's a board member at Livingston Hospital or at Doran Ginza Hospital? We don't know. The community don't know. But in the mind of the institution, these are supposed to be people that help with the transformation of those institutions to make it more people's friendly. to make sure that people's not only have access, but people's rights are protected in those institutions. But to a very large extent, these institutions has become liberal institutions, Western institutions. It is a title now, I'm a board member of this, I'm a ward committee member, I'm an SGB member, I'm a CPF member. And it is not kind of understood in the context of being the agent of change. Now, it's possibly unfair to generalize, but I'm just giving a kind of a generic uh, perspective on what I want to believe the state created these organs for people to participate, but it has been contested, and I think that the people in a great deal has ultimately lost these battles to really control these institutions of public interest, because that's critical to say. These are institutions of the public. But if you go to a police station, you are more scared for the policeman that's supposed to protect you. You are more scared for the nurse that's supposed to heal you. You are scared for the doctor. And we don't find it strange anymore because it has become part of South African society that these people, the powers that they hold before 94, for a very short while post 94, we managed to arrest those powers out of their hands.
Thank you very much for your very much insightful information. Just few questions, and then we wrap up our session for today. You've mentioned a lot about these organs of power, people's organs, and I think it's high time that they need to be revived. What advice are you giving for the communities to revive these structures?
Thanks, my leader. I think one of the things is the question around consciousness. You see, we should not revive just for the sake of revival. There should be a consciousness, understanding why are we reviving this. And I think we should do that through one, engaging people in terms of conscientizing them around the important role, if we take schools for an example, that the people can play in the running and the functioning of their own schools, you know. So for me, that is the important thing. It's not just about mobilizing people to take over their school and then they don't know what to do with their school, but it's really in raising their level of understanding and consciousness that will ultimately help them to understand the strategic role that the school can play in the upliftment of a community that we need to do. And we need to do that in a coordinated fashion. It cannot be like one school doing its own thing, but there needs to be a theme needs to be developed in a coordinated fashion. Lennon's 5-year plans, that there needs to be a plan that says that from this level, we are going to take our schools to this level, and this is what it will require for us as a people to do that.
Thank you. Um, I hear you about conscientization and empowering of these committees. Can we zoom into an example of ward committees? You've mentioned that they are supposed to be holding councillors accountable. They are supposed to be talking to the officials. What form of intervention? You take someone who knows nothing about anything and you elect him into this structure, and you expect him to deliver a certain amount of uh, performance.
yeah,
Is there any form of intervention that can be done by the state, including individuals, as they
yeah,
are sitting in those knowledgeable individuals, your institution, your universities, your NGOs, and so forth, to empower this so that they may be able to be the catalyst they were designed to be, and 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 to be effective as they are not now.
yeah. I think the problem, I want to zoom in just because of time. The problem is that we have created these organs and it has become by the way organs. If you look at our constituency office here in PE, I promise you there are not more than 5 people in that office. Now you expect 5 people to run 60 wards in the metro, multiply 60 with 10 ward committee members. The last time I checked, it's plus minus 10. So that's 600 people, you know. So in terms of capacity building, I don't think these 5 people will ever be able to get around to service all 60 effectively. But just take one step back. It needs to be institutionalized. It must not be a side thing. There needs to be year-long programs needs to be run to conscientize communities. This needs to be an active process of community participation in the life of city development, you know. It needs to be a team of people that are consistently working, not only when it's time for elections. That's why you see so few people pitch for electing ward committee members. It starts there. So there needs to be a coherent, and the national state need to plow money into that to ensure that it is not something at the periphery. And that is why councillors and officials are getting away with not being accountable as they ought to be, because ward committees feel disempowered.
Thank you, Jerry. This is quite a very, very good, empowering, and a strong conversation we've had today. And I hope that the listeners have picked up that power should not be privatized into hands of individuals. That these ward committees, they should be visible, they should be effective in our areas. And these were meant to be agents of change, not
Indeed.
just a nice to have type
Yeah,
of uh, committees. Personalizing of power should come to an end, and these are freedoms that the heroes fought for. These are freedoms that the heroes died for. Amaqhawe awafanga nje afele isizathu. There was a reason for them to be actively involved in the struggle. It was for a reason to liberate people, not by name, not politically and otherwise, but through active participation in the activities. We want to thank you, Jerry, as Amaqhawe Etu. We want to thank the viewers, and hopefully they've taken a point one or two. As a parting shot, you are welcome to give us a minute or two so that we may have umpago, dipatkos, ne?
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Manene. Well, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share with yourselves and the viewers. I'm indebted to Amakawe because I think it is a debate that we all must have. We must resuscitate people's power. We have to strongly advocate for stronger powers to these various organs that I have tried to highlight it, for people to be in charge of their own lives. Our country will not succeed if we are not going to be serious about the active participation of citizens or communities in the lives that affects them daily. We have to go the extra mile to ensure that people are alive, that people are active, and that people take responsibility for their freedoms. I thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for listening and watching. Thank you to Bumakapa and Kubela for hosting us. Thanks to everybody that is making this program a success. Let us remember that we are faced with a serious pandemic out there. Let us put on our masks. Let us wash our hands. Let us keep the social distance. Let us now send virtual hugs. We are hosting a virtual program successfully. Why not send virtual hugs to each other rather than wanting to touch? And let us obey all the laws and rules regarding this pandemic. We don't want to lose more people, but we want to defeat the disease. Thank you very much. Goeie aand or goeie naand. Dankie.
Baie dankie.